Hey there, before we dive into this podcast, which is a fantastic interview with Jeremy Cohen from Boston Dog Lawyers. Jeremy's got some wonderful insights to share about dog law and what goes on at his practice, and he also tells his pretty inspirational business journey too. You're going to love this interview. Before we dive into that, I want to remind all of my USA-based pet business owning friends, fans and followers that I'm going to be in the US of A later this year, multiple times, with my Grow Your Pet Business Fast live seminar. This seminar is perfect for any dog walker, trainer, groomer, doggy daycare, pet therapist. Anybody in the pet industry who has a service business or a store will get so much value from this seminar. You can find out where I'm going to be and book a ticket by going to petbusinessmarketing.com/tour. Okay, on with the show.
In a world of scaredy cats, boring pet businesses and unruly pooches, one top dog is on a mission to shake things up. He's transformed himself from a lone wolf who couldn't control a couple of chihuahuas into the UK's leading and most respected pack leader. If you're a dog walker, dog trainer, or dog groomer, then the Poodle to Pitbull Pet Business Podcast will help you stand out from the competition so you can make more money with less stress and fewer headaches. Here's your host, Dominic Hodgson.
Hello, me bonny Bens, and welcome to another episode of the Poodle to Pitbull Pet Business Podcast. I'm your host, Dom Hodgson, and I'm joined today by a very, very, very special guest. One of the joys of doing what I do, apart from actually working hands-on with lots of different pet business owners from all different aspects of the industry, is because of this vehicle that I have with the podcast, I get the opportunity when I just stumble across someone to say, hey, I want to know more about your story. Why don't you please come on the podcast and tell everyone more about what you do? And so it was the case with this week's guest. So yeah, welcome to the show, Jeremy Cohen from Boston Dog Lawyers.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And thanks for being such a resource for pet business owners. I love that.
Oh, that's so kind of you, Jeremy. I really appreciate that. So delighted to have you here. Give us, but first of all, Jeremy, just give us like back of a napkin, like who you are, what you do, name of the business, what a quick back of a napkin version of the business before we go into the past.
Who I am is the luckiest lawyer on earth because I fell into a practice where I now represent pet owners from around the country and get calls from around the world, actually, I think 5 or 6 different countries, where we advocate for pet owners' rights when bad things happen to our pets, whether it's an injury, it could be possibly regarding a custody situation, a pet custody situation, maybe somebody needs an emotional support animal, or sometimes we represent pet businesses. We're getting more and more into the pet business as a client, because there's so many things to do to prevent pet businesses from needing a lawyer that it's time to share some of those lessons. So mostly there for pet owners, but trying to do a bit more now across the industry.
Fantastic. And we'll get it deeper into the specifics. Well, not the specifics, but kind of more examples of the kind of things that make up a day in the life of you at the practice. Let's go back in time a bit more now. Where you're from originally? What was life like growing up? Brothers, sisters, hobbies, all that kind of thing. Paint a picture of little Jeremy for me.
Sure, that's great. I never had a dog growing up. We had a dog once.
Me neither.
No, okay, isn't it? That's amazing. And then I think that dog, Poppy, it bit my brother's finger. I have one older brother, and we never saw Poppy again. That was in the 70s. So this was never a concept of ever advocating for dogs. But I did love to work. My family owned a bakery. I was 7 years old working the weekends, and to this day, I still work weekends, and I have no problem with that. Dogs and pets, they don't know time, so things happen at all weird hours. But I think the best job I had was I worked at a roast beef place here in Massachusetts. I haven't left Massachusetts, and always right on the ocean. And at this roast beef place, you work 10-hour shifts without a break. And I did that for about 15 years. And the best part was I did it as a lawyer too, during law school, during high school, through law school. And then my first year out, I worked the drive-through. And it was just so humbling because nobody cares if you're a lawyer when they're coming through the drive-through and they're hungry.
Yeah.
And if you don't give them enough ketchup, or if you make a mistake with their change, or if you've taken 10 minutes to get them a hamburger, they're going to yell at you. They don't care who you are. And I just love that because it reminds me of the need for customer service and sometimes, or client services. Sometimes I forget about that because you're so busy doing the work that you forget there's somebody on the other end who needs to hear from you. And so it's a good reminder that people, even if you're working hard for them, they need to know that you are, because sometimes if they don't hear from you, they'll fill in the gaps with wrong information.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me about your parents' bakery then. Did they set it up? How did all that come about?
Actually, they opened it 45 years ago today, because
Wow.
45 years ago today was the great blizzard of 78 here in Massachusetts and on the East Coast of the United States, where it just shut down things for weeks. And I remember never going to school in the month of February because of this blizzard. It dropped a few feet, but nobody was ready for it. And so they opened a bakery in the middle of the blizzard. So that was, they kept it for about 15 years. And I went from serving coffee to making pastry to cooking eggs. I mean, I remember the big thing they say is you were using the cash register and you were 8 years old and we trusted you with it. And you had the combination to the safe. And sometimes it was cool because I got to be in an adult position as an 8 to 10-year-old. But one thing I remember about it is I did kind of like being in a position of power a little bit. Not that you have a lot of power, but you certainly, people are looking at you, towards you for whatever's next. And hungry people are very difficult people to please. But it was good lessons for me on working hard.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Yeah, good to have that work ethic instilled in you at an early age. I think I certainly agree anyway. Cool. So, and school, so were you very diligent? Did you like it? Was you a natural? What were you into?
I certainly into sports, into basketball. I always wanted to be a basketball coach and a high school basketball coach, because I played high school basketball and I did not enjoy it strictly because of my coaches. So I went to university here 4 years, studied sociology, which was a great way to be creative. In sociology, there's no wrong answers, unlike if it's a math type course. So it gave me a chance to kind of learn what my opinions were and how to express them, mostly through essay rather than through multiple choice questions. And it came time for law school. My dad and my brother had gone to law school, and they both went to the same school, and it was just predestined that I would be going to the same school. And I started to resist that, and I wanted to take a year off, but I got a lot of grief in my family because the fear was if you take a year off, you won't go back.
Yeah.
So I went right to law school, and I hated it because I just needed a break. I was only 22, and the average age was probably like 28, 29, and I just wanted that time off. So I never got it. So I really regret that I didn't enjoy law school the way I wish I did. I had fun time with friends, but I just wasn't that into the curriculum, and which amazes people now, because the job that I have puts me in a position to be making these incredibly new arguments based off old law in front of the highest court in Massachusetts. And I wasn't really on track to do that. But the most important job I ever got, thanks to my law degree, was I got a high school coaching job. It was coaching basketball, all boys high school. And the only reason I got the job, they told me, was because I was a lawyer. They figured I was responsible enough to drive the van. And you know what? Whatever it takes, I just wanted to coach basketball.
Yeah.
And I use a lot of those lessons even now. Like if we have a trial, we have a team. You know, the client's part of the team, the witnesses are part of the team, and you get to strategize who you're going to put on the stand first. Do you need this person to come in and clean things up? What do you want to be, offensive or defensive? So I try to make it fun, like a game for me, and I'm the coach. And that's why one of the reasons I enjoy it every day. I might not be coaching basketball anymore, but I've kind of fit that into my
That's
operations.
perfect. Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. I in my formative years, I did a lot of stage work, a lot of singing, all this, taught dance, all these, basically anything to do with performing. And then I left all that behind at age 21 to get a sales job, which was a great move for me and a young family at the time. And I kind of left all that behind. And this kind of, since I have started this business and having a podcast and speaking on a stage and all this kind of thing, and creating content, it's kind of given me an outlet, I think, for that that kind of performing, entertainer side of my character. So yeah, it's great when you can weave that back in some way, isn't it?
That's great story, because I was always told in college you should take an acting class, but I was just too shy. And but when you're going to be up in front of people, you've got to break that. And so, yeah, sometimes I think I'm in character because I'm doing things and saying things that I just didn't think I'd ever be able to do. But yeah, it relates to all your prior experiences. So that's why you're probably having more fun at it too, because it relates back to something you used to love to do, and you found a way to do it and make money at it. And it's not that easy to do, to find something you love to do and get paid.
For sure. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so you ended up going to law school, and how long does that take, Jeremy? How long are you there for?
That took 3 years. So that's 7 years of college and law school. And then you've accomplished nothing here, because then you have to take the bar exam, and that only maybe 70% of the people pass each year. They kind of regulate the percentage. And I didn't pass the first year. And that was the best thing that ever happened to me, because it was so expected that I would pass. My family, my friends, that I didn't even know why I was studying. Like, I wasn't even sure I wanted to be a lawyer. So the day I found out I didn't pass, it's a horrible day, but I just remember sitting there saying, okay, now within an hour, I resubmitted my application, paid the fee. And I said, now I'll do it my way. I'm going to study my way, because my dad had been an instructor for how to pass the bar. And I was just too close to home. So I was on a mission. This was not going to take a third time. And seeing how I reacted to that, to really the most devastating news I had received up to that point in my life when I was about 25. So how I responded to that, it impacts me today. No matter what happens on the other end of the phone, or I get an email about some disaster, hey, I've been there, and we dug out of it, and we're going to win fine. Just have a process to get there. And so I ended up making it just a fun challenge and pass the second time.
Cool. Give me a obviously I've heard of the bar exam, and it comes up in films a lot and stuff. How much kind of cramming, how much stuff do we need to learn here? Give me if you can quantify it somehow.
Well, I graduated in May, and then you spend from mid-May to late July doing one thing, studying for the bar exam. There's about 12 topics, and there's multiple choice questions one day for 6 hours and essays the next day for 6 hours. And you spend 2.5 months preparing for it, going over thousands of questions and topics that you may not have covered in law school. And then you have to learn specifics for your state. And it's a ton to do. And I didn't even have to work, and I didn't have to worry about kids. I can't imagine how people do it when they have these other things that have to distract them. But they're just good at time management. And so I felt that I took those 2.5 months off to study, basically as a practice for the second bar exam, is how I had to reason it, because it was could have been such a waste of time. Just especially, it's always during the first bar is during the summer, and you just got out of school and you really, really want to go to the beach. But it's always, you get up, you study, you go to school, study, come home, dinner, study, go to bed. You can't, you you have no time and you can't allow for any fun, really. You got to stay focused.
Sacrifices have to be made, don't they? Yeah, without a doubt. So did you feel somewhat after the disappointment of not passing the first, did you feel like the pressure was off somewhat then when you for you or not?
It was off from the people around me.
Yeah.
But it was on from me only. And I
Yeah.
didn't feel the pressure from me the first time around. So that's why I made it mine. And that was really important to me. And it's the same reason I have this law firm now, because I had to do something different than what my brother and my dad and my sister-in-law, everybody who's a lawyer in the family was doing. So it all makes sense now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, great explanation. Yeah. And so what is the path then? And once you've passed the bar, what happens? Do you join a firm? What no then?
Well, I worked at the drive-through, so I got my year off by working at the drive-through at the roast beef place. But you put out tons of resumes. You're constantly going on meetings and interviews. But and eventually, I got a job in insurance, and I stayed in insurance until for 10 years. So now we're at about 2006, 2007, and I worked for an insurance company for General Electric. In their insurance sector. And I wanted to be a vice president, and I made that known. And the thing about insurance companies, at least here, is they don't want anybody who wants to succeed too good in an insurance company. The status quo is great in an insurance company. They don't want any superstars, because superstars will want to get paid. And so I realized I was at a dead end. I had been promoted I was a global manager of claims, which sounds great, but certainly the pay didn't match that title. And a friend of mine, we spent a year interviewing all lawyers who had their own practices, small firms, because we decided we were going to leave and open our own practice. And it came pretty close time to doing it. I did not have the courage to really jump ship and give up all the benefits that come with it, the fixed salary. But ultimately, they got wind of what we were doing, and they made it easy for us at GE. They terminated us. So it was the best thing that ever happened. October 17th, 2007, we opened our firm the next day in a room above my garage, and just started waiting for the phone to ring. It was such an exciting time. It was so scary. My wife was not pleased. My buddy's wife was not pleased. But since then, it's a completely different lifestyle working for yourself. It's such a risk. You talk about the risks in some of the podcasts I've listened to, but it's a very difficult life to have your own business. Yeah. It's not nearly what people think. Oh, that's great. You got all the time you need. Taking a paid vacation, first of all, it's not a paid vacation, and you got to constantly think about the next client. Where's the next payroll coming from? So even when you're away, you're not really away. But the rewards are there, and sometimes they're not monetary, but they're there. And early on in 2008, we ended up doing collections, debt collection, which is absolutely the lowest form of my life being a lawyer, because what you do is you call people who owe money to credit card companies, and you tell them, if you don't pay, we're taking you to court. And so no one's ever happy to hear you call them and send them letters. And then your clients like big credit card companies, American Express, Capital One, you don't ever really get to meet an individual person there. So you're just sending money and information back and forth. You're not making a difference at all. I understand the need to come down on people who owe money, because it keeps the economy going. If you're going to borrow money, you need to pay it back. But I was just not a significant player. I wasn't doing anything to help people or what legacy was I going to have? And sure enough, in January of 2008, everything changed, but it changed gradually, but it changed with one call. And super fortunate, because I was a basketball coach at the time. I'd met some people, and someone had introduced me to a woman they said I needed to meet. And we met, and we had been dating for about 5 years, and she had kids, and they had a dog with their dad. And we got the call that the dog bit somebody. And suddenly this dog needed representation. And when a dog bites somebody here in the United States, they typically have a dangerous dog hearing. And it's just a brutal circus-like event at the local town halls. And anybody can come from the neighborhood. Usually it's after dinner, so it's in the evening. So people have had some drinks. So people, you smell alcohol, you smell cigarettes, and you smell anger. And people turn out and they send invitations, and people come there and they argue why that dog should be eliminated from Earth. It's so scary. And they start making up stories and embellishing. And I said, well, I'll go. I didn't know the first thing about it, but I'll go. And suddenly it changed the family dynamic, because we're this non-traditional family. And now I am representing my stepkid's dad and his dog. And I knew this dog, Jesse. He was a great dog, German Shepherd. And he was my first friend in the family. It's hard to get close to a 13-year-old boy, but it's easy to get close to a dog. The dog doesn't care that I'm on the scene. And I was shocked when I went to this hearing, 30, 40 people all calling for Jesse to be killed. And it struck me that they really they didn't know the dog. Jesse certainly would get loose because his dad, his owner, he trusted the fact that on the way from the car to the house, the dog would just go right in. But what would happen is there'd be a distraction, and the dog would go after a squirrel or a small dog. And that's what happened here. And the woman tried to protect her dog, and Jesse bit her. And ultimately, they voted to kill Jesse that night. They compared Jesse to an Al-Qaeda terrorist laying in the bushes, laying in wait. And I just found that very hard to believe. And so we appealed it, and it made the local papers. There was cartoons. Will it be the black and tan mile for Jesse based on his coat color? And the local news picked it up, and it was really exciting time. And then we won. And that was client one, case one. And over the next 6-7 years, I would take a few cases a year, thanks to new word getting out. And then I decided in 2014 that it was time to stop doing the collections work and do something else and try to make a go of this. You talk about, I don't have a choice, as one of the lies that we tell ourselves as small business owners. I didn't know I had a choice. I didn't think I could get rid of this big business, 25 employees, and just open up a business related to dogs and pets only. But then I was 44, and I realized I do have a choice. And that once you know you have a choice, everything's available to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. What was was it like a gradual thing as the case went on, or when you won, or was it had you been thinking for a while? Obviously, you weren't, like you said, you appreciate the debt collecting work needs doing, but it wasn't really, you couldn't really see yourself doing that for another 40 years. Was there like a light bulb moment with the dog thing? Did someone suggest niching down like this, or how did it kind of happen, that magical moment?
It never occurred to me that I could do it full time. And so for the next 5-6 years, I labored on, but each year I would get 3, 5, maybe 10 calls, and they were all the same. It was all about a dangerous dog that needed to be saved. And it was so rewarding, because I recognized there were some dogs that here, a consequence of being a super dangerous dog, I guess I would say, is that you could be euthanized.
Yeah.
But my thing was, I realized, like with Jesse, can we get to the right decision the right way? They just didn't do an evaluation of Jesse. They didn't have much facts. And so I would take these cases each year, and I wasn't out to just save the dog. I was out to just make sure we got to the right decision the right way. Maybe that meant that the dog had to be put down, but can we see first? And so I just figured that was a small percentage of the business, and would be a small percentage of my life as a lawyer. But it was too thrilling. It was too exciting. It was too interesting, and it paid the bills. And I was suddenly important. When you save somebody's dog, you're forever in their memory. they think about you at every holiday, at every birthday for the dog. That wow, without Jeremy, the dog wouldn't be here. And I don't know if that's necessarily true, but it was a great feeling.
Yeah, I think it probably is. Yeah, I think we, you know, I talk to my guys all the time about my coaching clients and stuff about, you know, what are you really selling here, you know, and we're selling safety and trust and peace of mind rather than just selling, you know, dog walks, training sessions, and you know, it's what are you really selling here? And yeah, you know, I often say, you know, you are offering, you certainly should be positioning it as a life changing or a life enhancing service, you know, because you're enabling the owner to fulfill the dream that they had with their dog. But in your case, I 100% agree. You are genuinely, you know, saving dogs' lives here, and the owners are so invested in their dog that, like, you know, you're saving the owner's life as well, no doubt.
Right,
so yeah,
right.
Wow.
And at the same time, they're all saving mine, because it was like, I love being a lawyer. And one of my friends always says, you know what you sell? You're selling hope. You're selling hope where there never used to be lawyers who would do this. You're selling hope that these pet owners can be heard, that their dog, their actual individual dog, can be saved by sharing anecdotes and information about a particular dog. And that feeling is addicting. And amazingly, at the beginning of, in mid 2015, I thought about it for a few years, and in 2014, someone came by, sent from heaven, to say, I want to buy your collections firm, because I never could see the exit strategy. And so I sold the firm, had to terminate all 25 employees, unfortunately. But and then I opened up this firm, not knowing what to name it, but I surrounded myself with people smarter than me, and I thought it was just going to be dog defense lawyers or something. But somebody I had hired said that's too limiting, so it became Boston Dog Lawyers. And Boston, because this is where I've grown up, and for me, when I think Boston, I just think of hard work. I just think of some very new and rebellious ideas had developed here in Boston hundreds of years ago, as we all know. So there was just something special about having Boston in the name. And at the time, I only thought that this could relate to dogs. But amazingly, for the first 6 months, the phone never rang. It never rang. I was getting more calls when I wasn't dedicated to this. And at the same time, I had gone on an interview with an insurance company. And the vice president said, look, we don't know if we're going to hire you, but if we do, you'll have 2 days notice, and then we'll fly you out to Bermuda to get trained. I thought, that's really unfair, 2 days notice. And to this day, that was November of 2015. They still haven't gotten back to me whether I got the job or not. They've never sent me a follow-up letter. So
that tip is sales. Thankfully.
Yeah, I know. But it was going to be either going to work there or pouring everything into Boston Dog Lawyers. So again, it just worked out right. And then I hit Facebook, and that's when things started to really change. And I was getting the media picked up on it, the local papers, the statewide papers, the Globe, the Herald were doing stories on it. And now national magazines are doing stories. It's just so cool. And people really care about this. I had no idea as to what the need would be.
Yeah.
And it's just so fast, Dom, so vast.
Yeah. Jeremy, this is fantastic. What we're going to do is we'll take a short break now, and then when we come back, we'll find out more about how the business, excuse that, how the business, I hate the way my phone is connected to my computer. Why does it do that? My phone is on silent, but it's making noises. Are you still there, buddy?
I am still here.
We'll come back after the break and we'll get more into how the business took off, and then we'll talk about some more about the different cases and stuff that you deal with on a daily basis, and how things have just exploded with the nation. So we'll be right back after this short break.
If you are a USA-based pet business owner, I'm talking to doggy daycare owners, dog trainers, dog walkers, dog groomers. And if you want to ensure that this year is your best year in business yet, if you feel stuck, if your business is lacking wow factor, If you want to staff, scale, but you're lacking the systems to successfully grow your business, then you simply must be at my Grow Your Pet Business Fast live seminar, which is touring the East Coast of the United States throughout 2023. We're going to be in Annapolis in April, and then New York, and then Washington, D.C., back to New York. We're also going to be in Atlanta and Florida. You can find out more details by going to petbusinessmarketing.com/tour. Why don't we listen to what some of the guys who came to my Texas seminar in January thought about the event?
So my name is Amanda. I am the general manager at Wagtime Pets, located in Arlington, Texas. And we really wanted to attend the seminar. It's been a goal of ours for this year. So we actually got Dom's newsletter in the mail and immediately knew we had to be there. So our goal really for going was to kind of, just get some ideas. We've had lots of things buzzing around in our heads, but one of the biggest things that we wanted to do was implement a membership program, and we'll be continuing with Dom's help to implement that into our services and just continue to grow our enrichment-based daycare and become more profitable.
The group was very nice, very friendly. They all had something to say about their respective businesses. And our great takeaways, I think we're going to be able to have a very profitable 2023 based on our goals and meeting them.
All right, my name is Christine Dawson. I'm from Houston, Texas, and I own a company called Paleo Pet Goods and Paleo Pet Sitting. I would highly recommend anyone who's listening to this to follow Dom on Facebook, get in touch with him, come to the next event he's doing. No matter where you are, get there.
As you can see, this event is highly, highly, highly recommended by everyone who comes along. I'm bringing the heat. I'm going to show you how to do all of the things that will elevate your business and help you stand out from the competition. Things like how to increase your prices so you are the most expensive and preeminent pet business in your town. How to create paper and ink marketing materials like newsletters. Who else has their own media except celebrities like Oprah Winfrey? I'm going to show you how to write a book. I'm going to show you how to create upsells that enable you to make more money from your existing clients. However, you need to move fast because the early bird tickets are on sale now. Go to petbusinessmarketing.com/tour to grab your ticket.
Right, we're back from the break, and Jeremy had just been telling us how finally niching down, serendipitously his claims business got bought, and then he went all in. The phone, well, it never stopped, and it didn't even start. The phone didn't start ringing, and then and then eventually with Facebook and getting in the media and stuff, it's all kind of exploded. One of the things I wanted to say is this is like, it's really interesting, Jeremy, even though you're in like a totally different not industry. Yeah, industry in many ways with the whole lawyer thing. When I'm speaking to my guys about niching down, and owning and specializing and ignoring what everybody else is doing and just going deep, like a mile deep with one particular breed or type of dog or type of behavior or something like that, the initial reaction is one of like, I can't do that, because I'm cutting off all this other potential sources of income. But it's really, from what you've just said anyway, and I'm really looking forward to hearing more about how it happened. It's like when you niche down like that and you give yourself a label, as you did with Boston Dog Lawyers. And I love that it's not just about the place, it's about the kind of the ideals and I guess in the philosophy of the Bostonians, when you give yourself a label like that, you make it really easy for people to find you, and you're right. You're exactly right what you said. It often doesn't happen straight away. Sometimes there's like a little bit of a kind of a flux in the communication where, the message isn't quite getting out there. But then once it does, it just becomes much easier for people to refer you. And, oh, well, Jeremy, he's the dog lawyer guy, and then the word just kind of spreads like wildfire. So talk us through how that kind of, what was the thing that lit the blue touch paper, and then how did it go from there?
Well, again, that lie we all tell ourselves, I can do everything. No, you don't have to do everything. And you're so right. The more specialized you are right now, I think the better. I mean, you look at these different clubs, all related to breeds and stuff. Veterinarians should actually, in a way, be breed based, because certain breeds, or at least advertise that they know how to treat certain breeds. These brachycephalic dogs, they need a different type of veterinarian. They need a veterinarian who understands the breed and what the breathing issues are. I'm finding that more and more. So specializing is not a way to, it's not limiting. It really isn't limiting. But that's a hard lesson to learn, because you want to do everything. But here, my only business plan has been this: to be better tomorrow than we are today. And so I don't have a 5-year goal, I have or 10-year goal. It's just that our numbers, and I measure everything. That's what being at General Electric taught me. Our numbers, I know all of them. How many calls we get, how many calls versus last year versus 5 years ago. What's the revenue like? What's the average fee per client? When did the calls come in? I mean, now we went from the phone never ringing to we get 3 to 4 calls a day, 7 days a week. And so now we have to staff up for that. But I found, if I had actually found the podcast about the lies we tell ourselves when I first started the business, it would have been probably easier, because most of us don't have a coach or a mentor, at least in the law, because of our ego. We think we can do it ourselves, but also because there weren't other people doing this. So I was just like, it's just, let's see where it goes. But there's ways I can influence the number of calls and the cases. And it used to be all about how many calls can we get, but now it's more about what quality of call can we get. And so you realize, at first it was important for me to be known, but now it's important for me to be able to select who I want to work with. And that just happens over time. And it's a great position to be in. You mentioned, like, don't become satisfied with being satisfied. And that's the mission here. That's what I tell my staff, the lawyers who work for me now, paralegals. This is good and we should celebrate, but you always have to be thinking, who's next? Who's the next client? And what I've learned is, you said, we're sort of in different industries. The more I'm in this now, we're into year 7. We're in the same industry, Dom. We both have the same clients. We both have the same customers. They're pet owners. And it struck me last year, I was asked to speak at this organization, the International Boarding and Pet Services Association. And so boarding facilities, doggy daycares, I've had cases against them. I've had cases against groomers. I've had cases against trainers. But it occurred to me that since we have the same clients, why do we have to keep doing this the same way, where client's dog gets hurt, client wants to sue trainer or groomer and take the business down? Like, there's a better way to do it. And so what I'm now doing is I'm consulting with pet businesses to show, here's the mindset of your client when they come to me. So here's what you can do to avoid them coming to me. And I think there's some good information there. I never will take down a business. That's not my thing. We don't have vengeance. It's just, can we improve things tomorrow for pets better than they were today? And all of us can be better tomorrow than we were today. And for the first 5 years, it was all pet owners all the time. But the variety of cases, when a dog goes to the vet and something bad happens, everybody blames the vet and thinks the veterinarian killed their dog, but it's just not true. And when they go to the groomer and there's a nick or there's an infection, or the boarding facilities in the United States, there's a dog getting hurt or killed, at least in Massachusetts, once every 11 days. And that's just the calls that come to me. So we need to do something about it. But simply suing them, filing a lawsuit or complaining about them, it's not going to change the behavior. Educating them and showing them, here's what you can do to avoid these injuries and these mistakes, it's just a better use of my time. And it's just better for the dogs. And it's better for everybody, because it doesn't have to be lawyer equals lawsuit. And a lot of what I do is just educating the pet owner or the business about what may have really happened and how it could be prevented. And for instance, a couple of stories, at boarding facilities, one big problem is staffing. So you can't have just one staff member working at a time if you have more than 10 or 12 dogs, even if you have 5 dogs, because an emergency could happen or there could be a dog fight. Now, who's going to go to the vet? And then and then no one's watching the dogs while the employee takes the ill dog to the vet. And in one of my cases, there was only one employee, and the dog ended up internally bleeding over a number of hours that ultimately the dog died. It took 40 days in the hospital, but he couldn't survive. But if they had got vet care right away, he would have been much better. And so that's why I'm constantly telling dog walkers, groomers, trainers, know a veterinarian that you can call immediately and say, I have to get in right now. Somebody in your local community, maybe you do free dog walking for them or free grooming services for some of their clients, but have somebody that you can pick up the phone and know you'll get right in. That's value added for your business, and it will keep you out of a jam if something bad happened.
That's fantastic advice, Jeremy. Yeah, I absolutely love that. I think what I'm hearing as well, there are certain, obviously I deal with lots of different kinds of businesses and different sizes and things, but the franchises, etc. There's a kind of a few fundamentals that will crop up time and time again on the podcast, and because they're the fundamentals, and one of those is pricing. And when we think about why isn't there enough staff, well, usually there isn't enough staff because whoever runs the daycare, they aren't charging enough, do you know what I mean, to be able to staff the place properly, you know what I mean, or what, so there's, and it's the same for lots of different businesses, for lots of different reasons, but it's just that one example you gave there, is like, I'm not saying that's the only reason, but it's like tied to this, and this is where this is why marketing and stuff is so important for all kinds of businesses, because the marketing should be like the vehicle to giving you the business that you want, to provide the kind of high standards that most pet pros out there, you'll know this as well, they're incredibly heart-centered, aren't they, and they love what they do, they want to make an impact, with their service. So yeah, this is really, really interesting.
Well, what I like about what you explain is it's okay to make money in the pet industry. It's okay to run a pet-related business with part of your motivation being money. When I first started this, I would get a lot of calls from people who were shocked that I was going to charge them for the work and thought that I was an extension of a rescue or a shelter. And so right away I had to say, look, I want this business. I want there to be resources for pet owners around the country like this. And one of the reasons there might not be right now is because of the philosophy that you have to do everything for free or for a discount. I want this business, which is why my name's not part of the business, is Boston Dog Lawyers, to exist well past me and to be in every state. And so to do that, you have to run it like a business. And so we're in it because of our hearts, because of what we feel about pets. But it's okay to make money and keep that sort of that mission that's in your heart active too. And I used to think I needed permission really to say that and to charge people. But another piece, and I know this isn't supposed to be a commercial for you, but it just, everything you said applied to my pet business. When you say, I need to do more to be more successful, that is in the infancy right now. When I think of more like this, more podcasts. I need to get out and be seen more. It's not necessarily more cases. And that's also not true, because you can select your cases. You can charge more for the right type of cases. You don't have to take every case. Being able to say no to is such a great opportunity to vet out certain dogs or certain clients that you don't want to take. And it's not, you said that I have a reasonably full business. So you don't necessarily need more things to do, but you can do things more efficiently. You can delegate. You can hire properly and make sure that you've got enough of a margin between what you pay the person and what you're bringing in. And so there's ways to do it without working 100 hours a week. Right now, I love working 70, 80 hours a week because we are creating law. We are changing lives. We are making arguments that haven't been made before. And that's exciting. But the reality is, I'm in my early 50s. I'm not always going to have that energy. So we have to start figuring out how to clone this, keep the standards high, but not make it involve me 80 to 100 hours a week,
Absolutely.
just
Yeah,
fighting and arguing.
yeah. Well, and again, this is like a new skills that are going to be required for you to be able to do that, you know. And
Right.
this is all part of the, you know, the journey that you're on here. It's fantastic. I really appreciate your honesty as well, Jeremy. It's refreshing and yeah, really cool. What give me a bit of a flavor then of like a, you know, a typical, obviously I know you can't go into details, specifics, but
I can. I share everything. I don't reveal obviously who the clients are, but
yeah,
everybody signs something saying I can use their dog's picture, their likeness, their story, and their dog's name. And that's important. And I think it's important for a pet business because they have to see, they have to understand how you've treated other cases, and they have to see you with dogs. Man, I love getting pictures with my clients, with the dogs. A big portion of our caseload is pet custody. So here, it's not people who are married and getting divorced. It's the new wave of 20-somethings and 30-somethings living together, playing house, sort of testing each other out. Is this a relationship I want to be in long term? They can't necessarily afford to get married, but they decide to get a pet together. And then when things don't work out, who gets the pet? And I had never considered this to be part of the practice when I first opened it. And it's now 50% of the practice. We are in court 3 to 5 times a week, in at least half of which are pet custody cases. We go to trial, we go to jury trial, because people fight over their right to see the pet. And we end up with a lot of shared custody agreements, but people don't want to see the other person in their life anymore, but they want the pet in their life.
yeah.
And old school thinking was, well, whoever bought it gets to keep it. So whoever's name is on the sales receipt or the adoption paperwork. But that's just not the right way anymore. And there's so many things, so many indicia of ownership. It's not just who bought it. What about the middle? While they lived together, who took care of the dog? Who took the dog to the vet? Who trained the dog, walked the dog? Who picked up the poop? Who changed the litter box? It's not just dogs. We have a lot of cat cases and horse cases. And people will fight over that, and people will pay to have a fight waged on their behalf. And I always try to talk every client out of doing it first. Look, I understand the value of a pet, but here's what's going to cost. And it may not work out, but people want to battle. Sometimes there's more to it than the pet. You know, this is a chance for somebody to stand up to the bully in the relationship. And so they're getting some pride back out of having us do that. And they're nasty battles. But when you win them, and we're at like a 85 to 90% win rate, it's just a special time when you reunite a dog or a cat with the owner. And I always have them send me a video of it. It's just so cool. It's just like, that makes your day. But the next day you got to wake up humble again and find another case.
Another case, yeah. So are you so in a case like that, then what would be kind of the determining factors then, you know, that would swing it in your favor?
I like to say it depends on which side hired me.
I suppose,
but but because the thing is, we do it the most in the States, so we kind of get it. But really, even if you didn't pay for the dog initially, if you paid 50% of the cost during the relationship, then you've accrued ownership rights, we believe. If you've at least gained the ability to have shared custody or possession, so that we put a lot of people in these agreements where one will have it for 2 weeks and one will have it for the other 2 weeks, and they never have to see each other. One drops the dog off at a doggy daycare or with a dog walker, and the other one picks it up at night, and they have to split costs. But it's possible. And I say, judges are like, these people don't like each other. I can't imagine them caring for a dog. And my argument is, these two people made the adult decision to live together and get a pet. And they made a promise to this pet. And that obligation doesn't end just because the relationship did. And just because they didn't plan in advance, what if we break up? They owe it to the dog. This was the dog's life. And neither one of them should be shut out if they have the ability to still care for the pet. So they have to figure out an adult way to resolve this. And it can't be, I'm taking the dog and going home and you'll never see it again. And that happens too often. And that's just not the right way to decide these cases.
Absolutely, yeah.
I've had people offer, actually, someone turned down $20,000 my client offered for the dog just for the summers. And you can have it the rest of the year just so I can take him out on the boat. But person wouldn't take the money because it's just, these are more than just the money.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Okay, then give us another example then of something that you would deal with on quite a common basis.
So another issue is people getting bit by a dog. Here in this country, I'm not saying people want to get bit by a dog, but they know this. If they do, it's a good fundraiser for them because insurance companies see that and they just pay for the scar and stuff. Usually, but some people get mauled to death. So I'm talking about the instances where someone got bit and it wasn't that bad, or they did something to cause it. So I speak to insurance claims managers a lot about this. They'll just pay it, but dogs bite for a reason, and I've surrounded myself with just such smart people, dog behaviorists, veterinarians, trainers, people who know much more than I do about dog behavior, and they've taught me how to dig deeper to find out why did that dog bite, and more importantly, what was the victim doing at the time. And so we take a lot of cases where there isn't insurance or where our client is being sued and they don't have insurance. And we defend them by saying, look, if there's a viable defense, your client reached over the fence, or your client ran through the yard, or your client trespassed, or your client was whacking the dog or teasing it with a hot dog, all sorts of things that put the dog in a position where the dog, they say, wow, this dog's so dangerous. It growled at me and barked at me. That's what you want in a dog. It's telling you I'm not comfortable. So this mindset that every dog who bites is dangerous and victims should be paid, it's just not getting to the right decision the right way. It can depend on what someone's wearing, when the dog was last fed, is the fence secure? Just so many reasons that these happen that we, plaintiffs' lawyers, the lawyers who pursue these cases, they loathe us because I just recently said to me, you're making me do so much more work. Why can't you just get your client to pay it and we move on? These are supposed to be simple, but that's just not the right way. Some dogs just, even if there was a good reason, they might be dangerous and the person should be compensated. But there's a lot of cases where somebody teased or tormented or trespassed and the dog bit them and they're not willing to take accountability. And really what my practice has shifted to is it's just about accountability. We want the people who make decisions about dogs to be accountable. And that means, and the people that we trust to care for our dogs to be accountable, whether that's the pet owner or the particular pet industry vendor. And those cases, they're interesting because you start to see them. We're trying to break that mindset that's been there forever. And we're doing that across the board. I mean, with custody cases, judges used to put their heads in their hands and like basically look at me like, why are you here with this? But now they've realized our arguments, it's based on law from the 1800s and early 1900s because dogs are property, pets are property. And we're dusting off old law and we're applying it to our pets, and judges are seeing like, all right, this isn't just some cute little firm with a dog face as a logo. Like these guys are lawyering. And for me, that's just so exciting because in any other part of the law that I was working in, there was no reason to really respect the work I was doing in court. I didn't stand out. I wasn't good at it. And now judges will call me in their chambers and they'll say, oh, one judge said, my granddaughter saw this case on the news and she said, Grandpa, you're not gonna kill the dog, are you? And so to just things like that with the judge, they just want like the inside scoop. How'd you get into this? This is fascinating. Or it's so cool to be recognized. And it's all because of the pets. It's not because of me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm so lucky that I had some courage to change my career, but also that so many things just fell into place for me. And so
Absolutely.
I'm always want to give something back, and I'm always trying to get younger people involved in law related to pets, because you can make a living at it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, yeah. So give me what is the what does the practice look like now then, and what are the plans for the rest of this year and the future?
So we have about 8 employees now. We just opened an office in San Diego, so on the West Coast.
Wow.
And there's a network of lawyers who do this somewhat part-time that I'm trying to build into a bigger network and license the name Boston Dog Lawyers. I've been advised that I should get the Boston out of the name, but I can't. I just can't. That's amazingly, The Guardian out your way did a story on us on pet custody, and I started to get calls from people from Boston. Like, and then it took a while for them to realize different Boston.
Different Boston.
So we're trying to set up calls, and I said, "Oh, that's midnight my time." But it's just to be better tomorrow than we are today. But I do like the idea of trying to get more resources in other states for people, because there's a huge need. Who knew? But we now know there's a huge need to advocate for pets and their owners, and we just try to do that every day. And getting calls from other countries, or getting people like you interested in us, that blows me away. I never take that for granted, that you found us and found this story interesting enough to bring us on. I really appreciate that. And that's how pet owners find out, and pet business find out there's resources available.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. Jeremy, this has been absolutely fantastic. It's flown over. I can't believe it. I definitely need to get you back on again sometime in the future. But before we wrap up, tell everybody where they can go to find out more about you and what you do. Give the website a plug and all that kind of thing.
Oh, thank you. www.bostondoglawyers.com. So plural. 844 DOG ATTY, 844 dog ATTY. And we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram at Boston Dog Lawyers. And we're starting to post more and more stories about what we do every day. And I just hope people will find it interesting. And we're always available if you have questions. Happy to help anybody from anywhere around the world if we can.
That's fantastic. Yeah, Jeremy, your passion absolutely shines through. I'm so glad you found your niche and you went for it, because you're just a real positive. You're making a positive impact in the industry, and I'm super delighted to have connected with you, and I wish you all the very best for the future.
Thank you, Dom. Let's keep this going. I appreciate
Definitely,
it. I like what you do.
Definitely. All right, my friend. I'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.
Bye.
Remember, peeps, if you like what you hear and you want to learn more from the UK's leading and most controversial pet business coach, then go to www.growyourpetbusinessfast.com now.